Good morning everyone, and welcome to the webinar on how to build rapport and connect with your audience. To me, this is one of the most important skills that you can have in terms of being a trainer, an educator, a facilitator, a speaker, even at meetings. Your ability to connect and be in rapport with your audience can really enhance your ability to engage, to influence, to sell your message. It's really hard to sell your message when you're not in rapport with the audience, if the audience is against you or does not have some kind of connection. So this webinar is about some tools and skills that you can use to build greater rapport, greater connection with your audience. As always, my hope is that you'll walk away with two or three skills, two or three pieces of information that you can use in your own personal life, in your own personal presentation style immediately. Things you can do tomorrow, things that you can do next week that are going to put you in greater connection and greater rapport with your audience. Most of you know me. Peter Dew's my name. I'm a public speaking trainer and coach, and my passion is helping people find their voice so that you can both confidently and effectively get your messages, your ideas, your point of views across. Many of the people I work with have got important messages, they've got knowledge, they've got valuable information, and for them to hold back and not speak up or not share that knowledge for fear or nervousness around public speaking is just one of those things I don't want to happen. So that's my role, that's my purpose in life, helping everyone have the courage and the confidence to effectively put their point of view across. How to participate, just in case you haven't been on a webinar before. I'm seeing a couple of familiar names and a couple of new names. Please ask questions as we go. There's two ways to ask questions. Type at any time in the dialog box. You've got a little chat or question and answer panel. You can type in that at any time. Don't wait for me to ask if there's any questions, just type, and feel free to add comments as to how this applies to you, or that you agree or that you disagree. It's your participation that makes the webinar more valuable and very interactive. Please take notes. And as always, I can provide a copy of the PowerPoint slides should you wish to make use of them later on. Just send me an email and say, Peter, can you send me the PowerPoint slides? But do also take additional notes. I think the most valuable way that I use webinars when I'm participating is to apply the knowledge to myself. And the best way to do that is to reflect back in the past to one of your workshops, one of your educational sessions, and how could have you done some of the tools that I'm going to teach you, how could have you used them to be more effective and more connected and more in rapport? Or alternatively, if you have a presentation or a training session or a facilitation session coming up, what are you going to take away that you can use straight away to get ready for that next presentation? This is my little formula that helps people have maximum impact with their presentations. And it requires you have really good content, really good connection. You need to have credibility, and also you need to be very confident, appear confident. This webinar is about the connection portion of this formula. Any one of these falls down and the presentation impact may be lessened. So great content, great connection, a very confident speaker who people don't think is credible will have very little impact. Great content, great credibility, very confident, too confident, but you just don't connect with the audience, then your presentation may not have impact. This is how to connect, how to build rapport. So this is the second circle in that formula to increase your presentation impact. So let's move on. This is the agenda. Why build rapport? The importance of trust in helping you connect and build rapport. The role of preparation in your connection with the audience. Some simple tools to help you build rapport. And once you've done a workshop, once you've connected, why don't you keep that connection going? There's a marketing statistic that says it's 10 times easier to keep an existing customer than it is to get a new customer. So part of keeping that rapport going post-presentation, post-workshop is that you're going to keep that business relationship going. And I'm going to also end with some rapport busters, those things to avoid in your presentation. So why build rapport? Well, let's start with just a couple of quotes. You may realize that every time you present, every time you speak, you are really selling. You're selling information, you're selling an idea, you're selling a better way of doing things, you're selling a change management process, and people buy from people they know, like, and trust. So this is a well-known marketing quote, and information presenting is indeed marketing. So I've adapted this quote for my own purposes. People listen and learn from people they know, like, and trust. If they don't trust you, if you're not connected, then they may not accept your message, your point of view. And I also love a quote that sits, for me, very closely with this marketing message, a quote that comes from Harvard Business School. And it says, focus on connection, not perfection. And this is in relation to your presentations, into your workshops. Some people spend so much time trying to get their script, their PowerPoint slides perfect. They rewrite, they rescript, and they're striving to get this perfect presentation. And one of the things that's called, perfectionism, it's also called paralysis analysis. You keep analyzing and analyzing. What Harvard Business Review is saying is it's more important to focus on your connection, your rapport, the relationship with the audience, than having a perfect message. So, and a perfect presentation. So if you're in connection, if you're in rapport, then you will be able to have greater impact than someone who delivers a picture perfect, not one mistake presentation, not one word out of place, but they have no connection. So it's your connection that's going to have the greater impact. So be real, be human, make a few mistakes, but spend time focusing on your audience. So let's get down to why build trust. The trust helps you connect with the audience. When they trust you, then they will be more open to your message, more open to your ideas, more open to your change management. When you build rapport, it helps you to generate trust. It helps you to be believable. Used car salesmen often suffer from a lack of trust. Pharmacists are some of the most trusted professions in Australia. So your building rapport is about generating trust. It gives you credibility. It helps build credibility. It shows that you're reliable. People that are connected with you, people that are in rapport with you, will notice and feel that you're more reliable. It gives you permission to sell your message. It gives you permission to teach. One of the mistakes I see people do is they get on stage or they get before an audience and they go straight into the selling. So this is the 4 things you need to do. And I, as an audience member, is saying, but hang on, who are you? I don't know who you are. Why should I trust you? You haven't taken the time to share or connect or learn anything about me or share yourself with us, and you're telling me what to do straight away. So when you build rapport and you're in connection, you also gain permission to teach or sell your information. So building rapport helps you connect with the audience. It helps generate the trust that's needed for that exchange of information to occur. Helps you with your credibility and your reliability as an information person, as an expert in your field, and it enables you or allows you to sell those messages once you are in rapport. So trust is a big part of it. And these are some tools, simple tools to help you enhance the trust, and that flows on to building rapport. Know what you're talking about. Public speaking is not about faking it until you make it. Maybe you fake your confidence and you're a nervous person and you pretend to be more confident, but don't fake your content. Don't fake your knowledge. So make sure you do know what you're talking about. The other thing to do is to do what you say, and this is simply walk the talk. The financial advisor who explains about not buying assets that depreciate, who drives a BMW sports car, is obviously not following his own advice, or is getting really wealthy out of giving you dodgy advice. The time management trainer who starts 5 minutes late, or who takes you 10 minutes into your lunch break, he's a time management guru and he's not following what he's talking about. So make sure you are in line with what you're saying. Do what you say, walk the talk. Have some credentials and experience. So take some time to talk a little bit about your journey, your story, your experience, your qualifications. What gives you the right to speak on this topic? What credentials do you have? And in one of the webinars I spoke about before, it was around your credibility, and it may be layers of credibility. It may be several things: your qualifications, your experience. You may borrow some credibility from someone else, some research you've read that supports your new position or your argument. All of that gives you some credentials and helps build trust. And don't be afraid to reveal your vulnerability or your journey, and of course your struggle. So some people have lost connection. I'm hoping that that is just at your end. So I've got one person from Kerry, very bad, lost connection. Can other people type in whether they can still hear me clearly? Can I have some comments from the other people? Can you hear me? Still hearing you. So Megan's hearing me fine, and Kerry, okay, I'm back. Clear, thanks from David. Robert can hear me. Roberta, beautiful. Okay. So I'm glad you're back, Kerry. So these are some tools to build your trust. In my own story, my vulnerability is that I'm a person who stutters. And I share that struggle. I share growing up as a person who stutters. And I'm working in the field of public speaking confidence, overcoming fear of public speaking. So that helps build trust. So this guy's going to give us some information about public speaking. The question is, what gives him the right? And so I reveal my vulnerability. I reveal my own struggle and my own success in overcoming not only my stutter but my fear of public speaking. And of course that adds to the trust and the connection with the audience. So don't be afraid to share your struggle, and you have the right to reveal the part of the struggle you're happy to reveal. You don't have to reveal everything. There's sometimes a bit of a school of thought that the people that work in a particular area, it's really valuable if they have previous experience. And I know that a lot of counsellors have experienced domestic violence or adversity or something like that in their own lives, and that brings a level of trust and credibility. I know that in America, most speech pathologists who work in the area of stuttering, or a lot of speech pathologists who work in the area of stuttering, are people who stutter themselves. So they're now helping other people overcome their stutter. So that's their vulnerability, their own struggle gives them a level of trust and connection because they've been on the same journey. So there's some skills to help you build trust, some simple things that you can do. I'm going to pause. Are there any questions at the moment? What do you do at the beginning of your presentation to build that level of trust or that level of credibility? Sorry, that level of rapport, that level of connection. Does anyone do anything that just helps them connect with the people? Yep, some people share their journey, length of time that they've been working within that area. So 15 years as a counsellor, 15 years working in the drug and alcohol. Someone says they just go straight into the content. Look, I know with people in positions of authority, and therefore they don't even need to build that trust, can go straight into content. And I think when it comes to legislation, when it comes to legal requirements, when it comes to health and safety, you probably do have that inferred permission to go straight into content. But I still do not think it would hurt you in any way to take a few minutes and just build trust and connect, because then when you give the hard messages that you can give anyhow by your position of authority, people are just going to be more accepting and more open to taking on your suggestions, your message, your lessons, your training. So I still think even when you have got that absolute authority, it is worthwhile to connect. I was doing an online course recently about leadership, and they were looking at the United States Armed Forces, and those leaders, those majors, those generals that were most successful and were most admired by the troops. And they found there's two kinds of leaderships. There's command and control. So that's one type of leadership within the armed forces, command and control. The other one is to listen and to inspire. So those commanders, those generals that listen to their troops, their ideas, and inspire their troops by their actions, by the way they go about doing things. The most successful generals were those that listen and inspire. So even if you do have absolute authority, like a general, and you can just tell, command and control, the listen and inspire, so take time to connect, was seen as more powerful and more successful from a leadership perspective. So really great question, Megan, really great comment. Okay, let's talk about your preparation to help you get into your rapport and your connection. This is what is called the iceberg theory. And you probably know that your presentation, what people see, the workshop, the webinar I'm presenting to you today is really just the tip of the iceberg. It's that top 20%. Below the water, i.e. the stuff you don't see, is about 80% of your presentation. So the connection and the rapport comes with preparation. Not so much what you do on the day. Yes, there are little things you can do that will help you build that connection above the line, things you can do that people will see you do and things you can say, but most of your connection and your rapport will come from things you've done before you step on stage. And we have a saying in the public speaking world, there's nothing you can do on the day that's going to make your presentation a success or a failure. It's already predetermined. And I think that's with the connection and rapport. How well you're going to connect with your audience is probably decided by things you do before you take the stage. So what do I mean by preparation? Know your audience. Be aware of what their needs are. Who spoke to them last time? What was the feedback of the previous speaker? There's a saying with North American Native Indians, you need to walk 30 moons in your enemy's moccasins. So this is about knowing your audience inside out. Do you need to be culturally aware? I'm off to speak in Kyneton in the Macedon Ranges, 1 hour out of Melbourne. Next Monday I'll be speaking, and I will acknowledge the traditional landowners, which are the Dja Dja Wurrung people. So it's being culturally aware. What are the audience expectations? What do you want from my webinar? What do you want from my workshops? How does my message help alleviate your pain or help you get to where you want to get to in your life? One of the biggest rapport destroyers is when the audience expects one thing and the presenter delivers something else. So make sure you're aware of what the expectations are. I'm doing another workshop in Melbourne in November where I've sent out a pre-workshop questionnaire. What do they want from me? What are some previous situations where they've spoken and they've had problems or issues or concerns? What 3 or 4 skills can I teach you in this workshop? And I get that response from the 15 people, and I understand well before, this is a month out before I do the presentation, what the audience's expectations are. And I make sure that I meet those expectations. What's the organisation's values and beliefs? I'm doing some work for a cancer council. And the people that work for non-profit organisations in the area of cancer support and cancer services, you know what their values and beliefs will be. They're a very caring, nurturing group of people. So I need to make sure that I can appeal to those values and beliefs and not say something that would break that down or that would reduce my ability to connect. I need to use the right words. Different groups of people needs different words, different languages. I need to speak their jargon. This is below the line. This is below the waterline in the iceberg. So when I say use their language, it's the language that they can understand. It's speaking their jargon. I work with health professionals. I've mentioned cancer councils. I work with the mining sector. I work with financial services, superannuation and financial planners. I need to use different language. I need to tell different stories. I need to use different examples with each of those audiences. If I use my health credibility, my health stories with mining sector workers, that does not work. How do you work out which language to use? How do you speak their jargon? You do your preparation. There's nothing better than when a speaker, an external speaker or presenter comes on stage, comes to a meeting and clearly shows that they understand your concerns, your issues, and they speak your language. That's a great way of building trust, building rapport, and facilitating that connection with your audience that then enables you to get your message across. So use the right language. How do you know? Maybe you need to speak 30 moons in their moccasins. Maybe you need to walk 30 moons in their moccasins. Pay a cultural compliment. This will really help you connect and build rapport. So the exchange of business cards with our Southeast Asian counterparts, the Japanese, the Chinese, the Singaporeans, the Indians, the Koreans, the Indonesians, the two-handed business card exchange. Even in Myers, when I go shopping in Myers, they hand back my credit card with two hands. So please receive the business card with two hands. How are you going to pay a cultural compliment to your audience? Acknowledge the traditional landowners, if that's appropriate. I've mentioned the Jajarung people, which is in the Bendigo, Macedon area. If I go to Geelong, then it's the Wathaurong people. Of course, in Perth, it's the Noongar people. It really does help you connect. Talk football. I remember going to the comedy festival in Melbourne last year, and an Englishman, an English comedian named Mark Watson was performing, and he had a packed house. And he spent the first 10 minutes talking about everything that was happening in AFL football, Australian rules football. He knew which teams were last from the year before and were in trouble, and who were the favourites for the coming year, because this is March, so the football season's only just started. He also knew who was in the media for, misbehaving, and just by speaking for that 5 to 10 minutes, the Melbourne crowd at the International Comedy Festival in Melbourne, this guy had everybody in the palm of his hand. Then when he went into his comedy routine, which went for about an hour and 20 minutes, was about internet fraud, nothing to do with football. The audience knew him, they liked him, they respected him. This guy had taken the time to build rapport and connect with his audience. And he spoke football, even though he was from London. One of the best examples of someone breaking down barriers and building rapport before going into their message that I've ever seen. Pause for a moment. Comments? Questions? And in fact, just last week I was in Karratha and I drove up for the first time. So I was able to talk about our stop off at Coral Bay, where we snorkeled on Ningaloo Reef. And we also went to Exmouth, where we saw the sun set over the ocean and the beautiful wildflowers that were along the highway all the way from Perth up to Karratha, which is a 2,000 kilometre drive, by the way. So 2 days to get up and 2 days to get back. But we took an extra day. So all of a sudden, the Karratha people in my workshop, I've just let them know that I know a little bit about Karratha, a little bit about their beautiful backyard. So what can you do to help you build rapport and connect? Has anyone got any ideas of something they can say, do, or use so that they can just build rapport? Sort of a cultural compliment. And yes, someone's commented on a little video that I show. It's a gentleman in a wheelchair named W. Mitchell, and he's talking to nurses about when he had to have plastic surgery on his face because he got burnt. And he said, then the nurse, they found my wallet, and in my wallet they found a driver's license. are the passbook for the South Africans in the room. That's a cultural compliment. He was presenting to an audience that was about 70% Americans and 30% South African intensive care nurses. South Africans don't have driver's licenses. They have a passbook. So the fact that he was able to explain that the driver's license was a passbook meant that he'd taken the time to know his audience and their language. Thank you for that example. So some simple tools to help you build rapport, to help you connect. Use a conversational style. Don't tell them what to do. Don't command and control. Instead, have a chat to them. The Aboriginal people call it yarning. Just tell a yarn. This people that have a conversation enjoy greater connection with their audience. Tell stories they understand. So once again, this is the right language. Stories that reveal your vulnerability. Stories that support your data. You may know that people are not going to remember what you have said. They're going to remember how you made them feel. Stories help you to take people on that emotional roller coaster ride. And if people walk out of your presentation with a feeling, with a sense that I can do this, there's light at the end of the tunnel, it's not as bad as I thought it was, wow, I can see the way forward now, then they'll find out the data, the points, the facts, the steps, the 5-step process that you taught them. So you need to tell your stories to help create that memorable experience. I always assume the audience knows more than me. So this is about being respectful. This is about being humble. No silly questions. If you want to break rapport, just say, look, that's a really stupid question. I'm not going to bother answering that. Once you're listening to me, I've already answered that question. And when I assume that the audience knows more than me, certainly when you look at a collective group, let's say you're presenting to 10 or 15 or 20 people, surely the collective knowledge in that room will know more than you in some aspects of what you're speaking on. So even though I'm a public speaking trainer, most people who come to my workshops have a fear of public speaking. I still assume that there'll be people in the room that know more than me. So I don't try to make you suck eggs. I don't try and tell you that it's my way is the only way. I'm quite happy to assume that there are different points of view and that collectively you'll know more than me. Inclusive language. How can we make a difference? What are we going to do? Together, we can ensure that we have no more incidences on this workplace, as opposed to I think, my view is. So try and be inclusive. And your gestures and your body language should be inclusive as well. Some of the mistakes people do around Australia that break rapport is pointing. Research is showing that female audiences around the world are sick and tired of male presenters, male speakers, male politicians pointing, thrusting a finger, a hand in the direction of the audience. An inclusive gesture, palm up, an open gesture, open body language that shows you that you're open to ideas, that while you've got valuable information and you are the expert or you are the guru, you're not completely closed to other ideas or to discussion. So your hands on your hips is a closed body language. Arms folded across your chest for the entire presentation is not going to help you build rapport or connect. So is your body language inclusive and adding to your rapport and adding to your connection? Or is it stifling your rapport? Is it saying to the audience, I really don't want to be here and I'm just going through the motions? To be authentic and genuine will help you really connect and really build rapport. One of the things I always try to do with my workshops is just be me. I don't try to be anyone else. I don't try to be fancy. I don't try to be polished. In fact, I make a lot of mistakes in my workshops. I make a lot of mistakes in my webinars, but I'm just sharing my information, and who I am is what I try to deliver. One of the mistakes people do is on stage or as a trainer, they do something different, and then when you see them in real life, when you see them at morning tea or afternoon tea, they're not the same person they were on the stage. And then that brings in a little bit of doubt about their credibility and their authenticity. So was that person on stage the real you, or was that a fake? So be genuine and be authentic. Make sure you have the right attitude. One of the ways to really enhance your rapport and your connection is to make sure that you have the right attitude. And this is how you connect, and this is how you can focus on connection and worry less about perfection. And I use the little acronym. It just helps me remember things, and it's called Communicate with Care. Communicate with Care. And the acronym stands for conviction, for attitude, and for responsibility. So let me go through those one by one. Conviction. Do you believe in your message? The first sale is to yourself. If you don't believe in what you're saying, why would the audience buy your message? Why would the audience change their way of thinking or adopt your stance? So if you want to build rapport and if you want to connect, make sure that you do believe. Make sure you have absolute conviction in what you're saying. The attitude. Every time you present, and it may be at a health and safety meeting, it may be at a pre-start meeting in the mining sector, it may be running an orientation or a health and safety training day. So really boring, maybe people don't even want to be there, but you as the presenter or the speaker, your attitude must be, at this point in time, there's no place in the world that I would rather be than standing before you, than sitting at my computer presenting to you guys on this webinar. Right now, this has 100% of my attention, and my attitude is that this is what I want to do. This is what I really want to do. That's the only attitude to have. So every time you do something, make sure that the audience can see that you really want to be there. That's the only attitude to have. If you don't want to be there and you don't want to present, then why are you presenting? Why are you presenting? Someone else should be doing it. Maybe it's just your job. Then maybe you're in the wrong job. The attitude needs to be that this matters to you. You want to be there, and the audience is special to you. That's how you connect, and that's how you build rapport. Responsibility. My view is that every time I get before an audience, it is a privilege. I have a privilege to be speaking to you today. With that privilege comes significant responsibility. Public speaking, training, facilitation can be life-changing. In the mining sector, in the health and safety sector, somebody gets your message and changes their behaviour, puts in an extra safety step, just double checks everything before they go, then you've potentially changed someone's life. you've potentially helped someone out of a difficult situation. So there is a responsibility with getting before an audience. Don't take that responsibility lightly. And finally, the energy level. If you want to build rapport, if you want to connect, come in with the right energy level. It's a simple rule. You need to match the energy level of the room and add just a little bit, just a little bit. How do you know the energy level of the room? You need to walk 30 moons in their moccasins. You need to do some research. This is below the waterline once again. Who's the organiser? Do the staff want to be there? Is it compulsory, or are they self-nominating and they want to be there? Get to the room early and just check and feel the vibe, feel the energy in the room. You must match the energy of the room and add a little bit. One of the mistakes people do is they come in too high. You beauty, they come in evangelical, jumping up and down and preaching and woo-ha, and the audience is not at that level. If you do that, you'll quickly lose your audience. The other thing is, let's say you come in and the audience is quite energized. They're anticipating some good news. They want to learn from you, and you come in really low, really flat. In fact, you've got better things to be doing with your time. Wow. You'll quickly lose rapport. You'll quickly lose connection, and you won't ever get it back. So it's important that you match the energy of the room and just a little bit above the top. You should be the most energized person in the room, but don't go too high. Don't go too high, or they'll think, who's this person? So that's communicating with care. That is how you come in with the right attitude. Believe in your message, have conviction. Come in with the right attitude, which is, today I really want to be here. Right now, this is the right place. You're a really important group of people to me, which leads to responsibility. You might save someone's life. You might change someone's life. You might prevent an accident. You might educate someone so they can get out of their stuck spot, whether it's financial disability, whether it's drug dependency. Great responsibility, and have the right energy level. If you have the right attitude and you tick off that communicate with care, that little checkbox, you're really enhancing your possibility of connecting and building rapport with your audience. Let me leave you with a new concept. Keep the connection going. So you've done a great job, you've been in rapport. Why not keep that rapport going? And there's a marketing quote about it costs you 10 times more energy, 10 times more effort to get a new customer than to keep an existing customer. So why not keep your team, the people you're speaking to, your clients on board by keeping that rapport going? So deliver what you promised. Deliver what you promised. If you said you were going to provide 4 steps for financial freedom, make sure you've got 4 steps that people can use for financial freedom. Remain behind. Be the last person to leave. My philosophy as a speaker, as a trainer, as an educator is that I'm first to arrive. First to arrive helps me get my nerves under control. First to arrive helps me set up the room. First to arrive helps me own that space and get ready and visualize and relax and get ready for the audience as they walk in. And my other rule is be the last to leave. So if someone stays behind and wants to ask you questions, make yourself available. Max Walker, the footballer and the cricketer, Maxie Walker, is an expert at this. He is a professional speaker. He earns his living speaking and writing now. And he will remain behind for as long as people want talking to them, asking him for more stories, for autographs. That's what he does because he understands the importance of his audience. Follow up as promised. So those of you who do want a copy of the slides, please send me an email and I will forward you these slides in a PDF format. Let's say you email me that request and I do not follow up. Then my level of connection, my level of rapport with you will be put at risk because, hang on, Peter's not reliable. Peter doesn't do what he says he was going to do. Always ask for honest feedback. And I invite everybody after my workshops to give me feedback. What did they like about my workshop? What could I do differently? What could I change to improve it? Any other comments? And you get all sorts of feedback. Feedback that you choose not to use because it's not valuable. Feedback that is really valuable. One of the things I used to do was I used to put my hand over my mouth as I was thinking and, my thumb under my chin and the hand across my mouth. And someone pointed out that when I did that, they couldn't hear me as well, and people who read lips or maybe hearing impaired and rely on seeing my lips would not be able to see me. So now I tuck my hand under my chin when I go into my thinking pose. I would not have been aware of that. So I'm prepared to open myself up and receive feedback from the audience. Hey guys, what can I do differently? I'd really like to make this webinar more effective. I'd really like to make this workshop even better. I'm open to any feedback. Those of you who've heard of the Johari window, two psychologists, John and Harry, looked at unlocking potential, and one of the domains is your hidden self. No, not your hidden self, the self that you're unaware of. And the way of unlocking potential is by people letting you know things about yourself that you weren't aware of. So you may have some traits that are positive and some skills and that you weren't aware of until someone reveals that feedback to you. You may have some traits, some things you do that are detracting from your ability to connect. You may not be aware of it. So get the feedback. That'll help the connection going. And add value. Give some free stuff. This webinar is free. Whenever I do my workshops, I let people know that, by the way, I will be running some free webinars. What can you give away? A 15-minute Skype coaching session. Send me an email if you've got any further questions. Keep the rapport going. You've worked so hard with the tools I provided you within this webinar. You've worked so hard to connect and build that relationship and that rapport with the audience. Why not keep it going? Some rapport destroyers. And we may have covered some of these anyhow. Acting like the expert or the guru. This is being a little bit in your ego. This is a little bit conceited. No, you're wrong. I'm right. Using the wrong language, the wrong message. Using health stories when I'm talking to mining staff or financial services staff. Overuse of acronyms. The wrong jargon. Telling bad jokes. Be careful with jokes. Really the only humour you should use in a presentation is self-deprecating humour. So something that happened to you that you're prepared to share. But even self-deprecating humour, people can use the wrong story, the wrong humour about themselves, the wrong incident in the wrong audience. And having an inflated ego. And this is a bit like acting like the expert or the guru. And putting your ego first. The really good speakers are very humble and very ordinary people, and they just have that conversation. So it's like chatting to someone that's, it's almost like they're not the expert. And one of the things I say is leave your ego at the door. So some people do have big egos. Some people are experts and they're highly sought after as speakers and presenters. But for the presentation, just leave your ego at the door. Come on, be humble, be inclusive, have that conversational, assume that people in the room know more than you, and then you won't suffer from an inflated ego. So there's some simple rapport destroyers, things to avoid. Also, don't put people down in terms of their questions. You know, that's a silly question. You mean you haven't been listening? That was already covered. Those kinds of things that put people down. I'm going to pause for a moment, have a quick drink of water. Any questions? Start typing away. Any comments? What will you do to help connect or build rapport with your next presentation? What one little thing can you do that you think will help the audience connect with you better? And of course, Megan, you said, oops, you don't do any of that. You go straight into the message. So you're going to do a little bit more preparation. And try and choose the right story. Acknowledge the knowledge in the room. Wow. Yeah. Is that someone's quote? So Erin, you've written that down. Acknowledge the knowledge in the room. That sounds like a really clever quote or a really clever passage that a facilitator would use. So we're here to acknowledge the knowledge in the room. Wow, Erin, if you just made that up, you need to put your name to that. Acknowledge the knowledge in the room. So I'm here today to share with you the 4 top tips to overcome your fear of public speaking, but I'd like to acknowledge that there's probably more knowledge in the room than I've got. So let's harness that knowledge and work together to all become more confident as we leave the room. Good stuff. It just sort of rolls off the tongue beautifully. Acknowledge the knowledge within the room. So just a brief promo, some upcoming workshops. As I've mentioned, assertive communication skills coming up in Melbourne. I've mentioned Kyneton, which is in the Macedon Ranges. And Erin, I think you're from around that area. I think there's still a couple of places there. Workshop in Sydney, if you know of anyone in Sydney. Couple of Perth workshops, down south to Bunbury, back over to Melbourne in November. Seem to be spending more time in November, more time in Melbourne than in Perth, which is great. And I will have a couple of webinars coming up for November. I've just set them, but I haven't created the flyers yet. So keep an eye out for those. I can tell you what they are, and I think I can tell you the dates. It's Friday the 7th of November, and I'm going to talk about structuring a presentation. And then on 10 days later, on the 17th, which is a Monday, I'm going to do the use of your stories, how to craft and build powerful business stories that'll have impact for your audience. And that'll help you build rapport. It's using the right stories. So if you're interested in any of those webinars, keep an eye out. I do publish them on my website as soon as I have them ready. If you have any further information, any further requests, if you do want some PowerPoint slides, please send me an email. Love you to like me on Facebook or write some comments. It's Public Speaking Dynamics. It's my business Facebook page. Any final questions? And I'm happy to end the webinar 5 minutes early. Any last comments? And thank you for participating.